Thank you very much. Today in research, we seem to have it all. We have direct connection with consumers through online. We can gather insights anywhere and anytime through mobile. We can even collaborate continuously 24/7 with consumers, not only gathering insights, but also turning those insights together with them in relevant new products, services, or communication campaigns. We live in a wonderful research world, and I think one of the systems that help us to do all of this, to deliver insights anywhere, anytime, to structurally collaborate with consumers, are research communities. I think if you look at the last 10 years in market research, communities are the rising star and are the method that we all have started to love. At Insights Consulting, we have done thousands of communities with hundreds of thousands of participants, generating millions of conversations and thousands of insights. And we have seen how communities can help companies to come to game-changing actions. And the thing is, it's not only we at Insights Consulting who have seen this and who started to love research communities. I think the research world is starting to adopt them at a high kind of pace. Today, almost 60% of the industry has adopted research communities as a method. And if we look at what, amongst others, Ray Pointer says about the shift in MR budgets that is going to happen in the next 10 years, we see that today it's only 5% of the MR budgets that go to communities, but that in 10 years from now, that could grow towards 70% of MR budgets that are spent on community-like platforms. So communities are great. We all started to love them, but can we also guarantee their long-term success? If communities become the kind of dominant research platform, what will happen? Can we keep on making it happen? Because if you look at literature, literature says that half of communities fail in the long term. Not necessarily research communities, but communities in general. Online communities in general, half of them fail. And of course, we as researchers, we have spent quite some time in understanding how we can keep those communities healthy. More maybe than marketing people, we know how to motivate those people, to incentivize them, to moderate those communities in an engaging way, and to gamify them so that people find some fun in them as well. But is that enough? Because at the end of the day, we will do more communities than ever before, and we will all use those same kind of engagement methods. So can we make sure that participants, the same participants that we are all after, will keep on loving this methodology as much as we do? And I think what we do today in the research industry is we use participants once. What we started to do with communities is using participants more than one time. But what we still don't do well enough, I think, is thinking about the lifetime value of a participant in a community. Because if a community member drops out, okay, we will refresh the community with new members. That's our current kind of reality. Yes, we do great engagement techniques on them, but too bad if we lose one. Let's bring in another one. My personal belief is that in a future where dominantly research will be done on communities and where we will be all after the same participants, this is not what we can do anymore, because participants will become a scarce resource. So we need to think very carefully, how can we keep participants on board even longer than we keep them on board today? So what do we need to do? We need to be able to understand which participants are good participants in terms of quantity of participation and quality of participation today. But it would be great, just like in the movie Minority Report, if we could look into the future and predict what participants will do in 2 months from now, how their quantity and quality of participation will evolve. And of course, what we can do about it. Because if we can prevent members from becoming a bad participant in terms of quantity and quality, then we can keep them on board. And that this will be good for the future of the market research industry. So with me is Steven de Barre from ISEC School of Management, our academic partner in this experiment with artificial intelligence to make Minority Report becoming a reality when it comes to participants and participant engagement in research communities. He will tell you all about the experiments we did and the tool we created.
And the solution that we're presenting today is proactive community management. We're going to explain the case study and proactive community management using the movie Minority Report. For anyone who didn't see it, it's a movie starring Tom Cruise that describes a world where murder can be predicted and be prevented. So proactive community management consists of 3 principles: detect, predict, and prevent. Let's go into detail on each principle. First principle is detect. In the movie, you see that Tom Cruise relies on oracles to help him to combat crime. While in research communities, moderators are most of the time on their own and have to rely on their own efforts to manage a community. But this is kind of crazy, because on the one hand, communities are data-rich environments, but we only use this data to derive consumer insights from, so we're not really doing much anything else with it. On the other hand, technologies already exist that allow to effectively exploit data and get more meaning out of it, like text mining, NLP, and behavior analysis. So why not adopt these techniques and use it on community data to derive better community insights to support the moderator in managing the community? That's what we did in the research project involving a huge sample. We analyzed 3 years of data, 150,000 posts from 7 ongoing communities, resulting in 7 million data points. But first, how do we measure member disengagement? Well, we identified 2 dimensions to be important: quantity and quality. We can measure the quantity level visualized on the x-axis by calculating the percentage of active topics the member engages in. We can measure the quality level visualized on the y-axis by counting the amount of used cognitive words per post. Words like because, think, reflect the effort that has been put into the text. Now, how can we make this practical for the moderator? Well, by using a cutoff value to distinguish between high and low activation levels, and combining the 2 dimensions, we can come up with a 4-quadrant framework. This allows the moderator to classify the community member, assess the risk of member disengagement today, and identify 4 different profiles of the community participants. Okay, that's it. Now we can distinguish 4 different types of participation behavior, and we can detect member disengagement. But let's take this to another level. Why only look at the present when we can look into the future? Why only detect when we can predict? Just like in a movie where Tom Cruise can see the future. Tom Cruise relies on oracles that predict murder before it's actually taking place. And we can also do predictions in real life, as has been proven by many use cases ranging from Facebook to the Obama campaign. Predictive analytics and artificial intelligence allow to predict future events. We can adopt this in a community context by creating prediction models to predict member disengagement, low quantity and low quality. The output of the prediction model is a probability and a risk indicator that reflects the likelihood that a member will demonstrate disengagement behavior in the future. Now, how do we do this? Well, we use historical data and machine learning techniques to identify patterns in data of the past that explain future behavior. By using 2 months of historical data, we can predict the behavior of a participant 2 months in advance. The intuitive explanation here is that we try to find habits that explain future disengagement behavior. Human behavior is very predictable. This is the same for our community context. Now we can use the output of the 2 prediction models to classify each member into a certain quadrant. Here we transform the previous framework to give insights into the future behavior of each participant. The moderator can then use the prediction models and this framework to identify what the future profile of each participant will be in the upcoming 2 months. Well, you may have been thinking right now, can we really predict well? Well, by analyzing our models on unseen data, we can evaluate the quality of the prediction models. And we see that we have a pretty good accuracy. For low quantity, we can make correct prediction in 71% of the cases, while making correct classifications for low quality behavior 78% of the times. To clarify these numbers, by knowing that random guessing has a 50% prediction accuracy, you can see that our models already perform better than that. A moderator may perform better than our models due to expert knowledge, but in fact, it does not really matter. Because when scaling to the whole community, or when it comes to make fast predictions, a moderator can never beat the model. So overall, it's a better choice in this phase to rely on the models. The moderator will be more important in the third phase. Okay, let's summarize. Until now, we saw that we can only detect memory disengagement, but we can also predict. But why predict when you're not really doing anything with it? Why not take actions on our predictions so we can anticipate what's likely going to happen so we can prevent expected negative impacts? That's what they also did in Minority Report, where they prevented murder from actually happening. And that's what you're also going to do in a community context. We created a three-stage approach where we combine the strengths of the moderator and the machine. We use the prediction model to predict for each member the future profile. Then we can use the framework to classify each member into the quadrants so the moderator can identify the future behavior. This is the identify phase, first step. Next comes the contextualize step. Community data and CRM information can be used to contextualize the identified future profile. Based on this information, even suggestions can be done for the corrective action. For the third step, the finalize, the moderator comes into place by interpreting all the previous information, so he or she can finalize and take the right action. So we can personalize the prevention action. Now you may wonder, which actions do we have to take? Well, we don't have to worry because we can just rely on 10 years of industry experience to help us with that. The only differences are, instead of using a one-size-fits-all approach for all our community members, we can now personalize by using the framework. And instead of using the action in a reactive way by doing damage control, we can use it in a proactive way to prevent expected community negative impacts. We can use the toolbox that you already have today, but now we must personalize the action for the right participant at the right time. So that's what proactive community management is about. It's detect, predict, and prevent.
So if you listen to what Stephen was talking about, the future is not about machines taking over the job of us human researchers. No, it's about machines that are going to help us to do a better job. They are going to take over some of the repetitive tasks and freeing time for us to focus on added value tasks. And on the other hand, machines and smart systems and AI can also help us to do things that were just not possible before. Like in this case, looking into the future, seeing what participants will do in 2 months from now and taking preventive action. So I like to talk about human-machine collaboration. I like to talk about, instead of artificial intelligence, augmented human intelligence. That's what will happen. Artificial intelligence will augment our own intelligence as a researcher, will allow us to focus on the added value tasks and will allow us to do our tasks better. Like in this case, moderating a community, we can look into the future, we can predict how participants will behave in 2 months from now, and the system is helping us with giving suggestions about how we can prevent. But in the end, we still do it ourselves. We still decide what the preventive action will be. The system is just suggesting, and we are going to execute that suggestion as well. So that's how we look at artificial intelligence at Insights Consulting. In market research, it will be about man and machine working more than ever together. And that's the challenge, finding the ideal way of human-machine collaboration. Thank you very much for listening, and we are looking forward to your questions.